Hello, friends. A very warm welcome. And in this session, also, we will try to take up those key aspects and elements which we have not discussed previously as such part of the whole series. If you see the whole pedagogy and if you see the whole chronological process, then you will find that it is a kind of a very structured course. So, the goal here is not to create any kind of repetitive or any kind of monotonous element, but the idea is to understand if we are up to the level where we can really actualize the amount of learning that we had till now. And reaching up to the exam is of infinite ways, like Lord Hanuman. If thing has to be done, it has to be done, and there are so many ways to do it. We are only looking forward to some of the feasible ways of which we are sure that we have practiced them, we are aware about it, and we are confident about it. Examine the need for electoral reforms as suggested by various committees with particular reference to one nation, one election principle. There is absolutely no need in this answer to know that how many committees were there or whether you actually know that which committee said what. If the question demands that is there need for electoral reforms which had been or had not been suggested by various committees, and in case such suggestion had been there, maybe indirectly or directly, you must be aware of it, and then you have to examine whether it is feasible, implementable, and it is helping Indian democratic governance administrative process in the long run. So the answer starts by talking about committee headed by Ramnath Kovind supporting implementation. Now, because probably the candidate or the aspirant is not aware of Indrajit Gupta committee or Dinesh Goswami committee or even Administrative Reforms Commission or even Panchi Commission or even state center relations, when we are speaking about somewhere indirectly, directly, everything can be brought into the picture if the candidate is smart enough. ARC will not speak directly. Dinesh Goswami committee will speak about it. Indrajit Gupta committee will speak about it. Or even ideas of SY Qureshi sir will be coming into picture. Or even one can speak about what Niti Aayog also may be saying. So, so many things one can bring into the canvas if you are not actually aware. But we can't see that. So the questions directions becomes linear, becomes closed. So that's why in our everyday work, when we are revising, when we are working, when we are studying, we must be very much aware. That is only possible when we are going to bring certain elements of certain learning from that. Most streamlined way of carrying out elections is not a really streamlined word, is they are not fitting into it. Elections are being carried out most streamlined only, but the need is understood from the fact that it is a huge and gigantic administrative process requiring repetitive cycles at times, and huge amount of resources are consumed by it for a country like India, given the fact we are the largest population in the world. That is the whole point. So carrying out itself is maybe equal to GDP of so many countries in the world in one way. Rationalize and repurpose expenditure and capital. That is, I agree with you. Second point is definitely talking about it. Realign more greater focus on growth and development as MCC prevents introduction of new policies. Now, that's not exactly fair. I agree with that point that MCC obviously is asking you not to introduce new policies, but the fact is that enough time is there in 4.5 years where you want to say something, you want to do something, and you can plan for the next 5 year cycle. As the last 10 years, government had always spoken about after every 5 years what should happen. If we are only talking about I want to give exam, I want to get selected, probably there will be no selection. If you think about that, selection is very small element of my bigger life's vision, and then I will be going to do some much more bigger thing, then probably much more streamlining and cushioning will be there. So that's why this point will not be so much taken in the long sprint. Enable to reduce regional disparity in growth and development. How that has to come up? Probably you want to say that the horse trading or even the fact that there is mismanagement at times in the political culture, that may be somehow streamlined. But concern is that long-term success and continuity, it's a very vague sentence. Ambiguity over course of action of any government dissolves with that. This is a very, very important because our preamble or our fundamental rights or even our parliament or even election commission as a constitutional body are not directly speaking about it, because till 1967 it was presumed, so it was happening. After 1967, when the society became more complex, political culture became more diversified, and one party monopoly got fractured slowly, surely, then these things emerged. But that is the only way, forcefully doing rather than changing the whole culture. That is may not be very feasible, may not be really implementable. We really don't know, because there are both sides of the coin as far as present day is concerned. Large number of constitutional amendments needed. Rather than large numbers, you can say half of the states are required, because it requires absolute majority. So bringing the key word will help us. So we move to the next question, please. Explain and distinguish between Lok Adalat and arbitration tribunals. Very, very, very fine tuned and very relevant question. Whether they entertain civil as well as criminal cases. This definitely depends upon the passion, definitely depends upon the whole year study. Every day arbitrary tribunals are coming up, whether it is about taxation, whether it is about bankruptcy, whether it is about GST, whether it is about an administrative officer going to the higher court. There are administrative tribunals of civil and other nature, but lok adalat and arbitration tribunals, one need to know. So we can see here, they are two important justice delivery tools constituted under the framework of alternate dispute. Very wonderful, I think, very wonderful start. Difference between the two is that LA wider jurisdiction from petty offences up to rupees 1 crore. Decision is binding and final between the parties to the case. Fresh tribunals with limited jurisdiction. Decision can be appealed. I agree with both the points. More accessible, affordable, and specialization and expertise. I agree. Focus on mediation and conciliation. Arbitration is more preferred. Handle civil cases like robbery, accident. I think if you're done on your own, then it is fairly appreciated. But you could have brought here also, like the constitution of Lok Adalat and the constitution of arbitrary, panels. That also must be brought here. Increasing in reach of both Lok Adalat and arbitration tribunals can greatly aid in reducing dependency in cost effective. It is already doing it. So only thing remaining is that when we are daily doing the newspaper sessions and also rest of the thing, you just bring the clarity with certain very, very important illustrative example. If Vodafone had gone to arbitration, or in case of Lok Adalat, if there had been certain state which had been doing really well, some model had emerged, Haryana started with that, and whether it is more effective in the tribal or in the far-flung rural areas. So that would give you a solid specialist edge that requires more amount of commitment and more amount of solid confidence. I believe there is coming up. Growth of cabinet system has practically resulted in the marginalization of parliamentary supremacy. So it is asking you not to comment on this. It is asking you just elaborate this. The question is very clear about the fact this has happened, and cabinet system is supreme because it is the cabinet which decides, with cabinet committee on security affairs, cabinet committee on parliamentary affairs, cabinet committee. It is there everywhere, and the cabinet is the most supreme body which is coming up with the new schemes, which is coming up with the coming up of whether it is Agniveer, whether it is coming up of certain port, or whether it is Pradhan Mantri uh, Kisan Vishwakarma, or whatever you think about. Everything starts from the scratch when the cabinet committee meets under the chairmanship of the prime minister. From that cabinet, it is coming up to the different forums or forums like parliament, and from there it is generally passed on. So it is asking you, the question is actually asking you the growth of cabinet system, especially in the last 2 decades or three, especially after the coalition government, that parliamentary debates, parliamentary deliberation, or whether the already question number one, which was one election, uh, uh, that one election question was there, that also had not been deliberated in the parliament. It must be deliberated much and much in the parliament, and then only it must be announced. But the committee comes up, committee gives its report, like executive announces it, and that's how it is happening. They know for sure that we will be able to implement it through the parliament. So this is a very, very serious note. That is what the question is asking, that practically resulted in the marginalization. Practically, because it is not saying that any kind of lawlessness is there, or any kind of unconstitutional thing is happening. You can't question it in judiciary, but you can definitely question it in the terms of the democratic system. You can question it in the people's court. So cabinet system, a form of executive or disposal of constitutional responsibility, whereas parliament is the legislature giving birth to the cabinet form of government. India's neither follows cabinet supremacy nor parliament. It is the constitutional supremacy that is followed. I agree with you. It cannot be stated that growth of, you've taken a question in a different way. That's what I was saying. The question was asking you to elucidate that it is happening, but how it is happening in the present day India, that is what you have to say. So I agree. The question is gone when the question is going in the different direction altogether. It is asking in the 21st century how cabinet is saying something, and whether the parliament or the opposition parliament, if you are in power and then opposition is not agreeing with that, whether debates are happening, whether the ruling power is agreed to take the point from the opposition and then able to mold it accordingly, that is not happening much. That is why it is saying that parliamentary cabinet system had more or less marginalized the parliamentary supremacy. You think about the Waqf bill which had recently come up, or the private or the privacy data bill, or even when we speak about, for example, security of railways, I mean to say the security systems over there, Vande Bharat or other schemes. So you think about the cabinet and then you start link it with the parliament, and then that it is. So the question had gone in the other direction. Question is actually, now the answer is written from the fact is. If the question says is, or in India parliament supremacy is not there, but there is supremacy of cabinet critically examined, then also probably this answer would have been sufficed. But the question is asking you to elucidate, only elucidate. So that is why taken in a different direction. It was a very practical question because it was asking you to practically handle it. Analyze the role of local bodies uh, in providing good governance, and bring out, very wonderful question, bring out the pros and cons of emerging rural local bodies. We always speak about this urban local bodies.
Merging the rural bodies with the.
Merging the rural local bodies. That's what I'm saying. Means I could sense the answer. So here it is very beautiful question which is asking you, the how local bodies, small local bodies in India of tier two, tier three cities, they can actually become a microzomes. They are the small, sophisticated ecosystems. When they become proficient, when they become efficient, uh, then automatically metropolitan cities burden will come down, and then India will be able to leverage a lot of expenditures, whether it is waste management, whether it is e-waste, whether it is water treatment, whether it is healthcare, whether it is urban housing, or whether it is about the financial viability of the local bodies through bonds. So uh, a very beautiful question it is saying. The first part, as I said, must be written from those lines and must be brought some specific examples. For example, Solapur will be having a different kind of approach from that of Kannur, or from that of the Sonipat, or from that of, for that matter, Gurgaon. So you have to bring the role in providing good governance. It is very critical. India is at the cusp of uh, providing solutions to the global challenges through its demographic dividend and its knowledge economy, and also its democratic system. So at the grassroots level, through digitization, which we had penetrated very beautifully, but it is onus on us that whether we are able to utilize it properly. So just providing broadband is not going to suffice. It is all about providing the right approach. So that can be done in the part one. Pros and cons are there. In the part two, we will just see the answer. The local body, the best example, bottom up approach, direct participation of citizens. Most closest channel for addressing, yes, I agree with you. Gram Sabha and Panchayat meetings, effective implementation and policies, MRJPDS scheme, but there could have been much better illustrations. But the key points are very good. Assessing aspirations and needs at the local level, escalating local challenges at the higher level, very true. Social audits with large sample, I like that, very good points. Seamless and robust functioning, synergic address of common concerns and unemployment, poverty, and rationalization of funds is a very good point. You should have said that uh, they can be merged where there is a blurring boundary of increasing urban conglomerate, or agglomeration is there, and where there is a kind of a phenomenal rise, there is a merging. But everywhere it is not feasible, where there is a long distance between, there are large fields, or there is an industrial town, but then the next viable employment activity is missing, there it is not possible. So need to understand different ground realities, that here you should have brought the idea of regionalization, how different regional blocks are there. All regional blocks require different kind of approach. Some are agriculture dominated blocks, some are industrial dominated blocks, some are service blocks. Over there it is very difficult. Socio cultural differences nahi hai, socio cultural diversity hai hamare यहाँ. So that is what we could have brought, but I think good effort and good good approach of the answer. Public charitable trusts have the potential to make India's developmental inclusive as they relate to certain vital public issues. I agree with that. Yes, public charitable trusts. 90% of Indians, those who have not, by the grace of God, suffered something, or those who are not much enlightened, they don't have anything to do with the public charitable trusts. Public charitable trust, whether it is Dharamshala in Haridwar, whether it is a spastic society, whether it is cancer, whether it is thalassemia, whether it is sickle cell anemia, whether it is organ donation, whether it is cataract, whether it is female centered, or I should say gynecology related, uh, you know uh, I must say that department, or whether it is pediatrics if I talk about health, or whether it is about education in the far flung areas. Public charitable trusts definitely have the potential to make development more inclusive, because they are the one who are talking about the most marginalized and most neglected stream, whether it is the street children, whether it is destitutes, or whether it is homeless people. So that is how you should have brought, or you must brought. So let's see, Sarvodaya and equity, and then Sarvodaya and equity, they're an extended arm of governance, social justice, targeting specialized area of concern as a part of corporate social responsibility, targeted local region areas delivered, including hunger, poverty, old age homes, specially able people, welfare, qualitative service delivery. Complementary to public sector efforts, PDS for food security, enable resource allocation, transparency, functioning, dispersed funds. So you should have gone to the next level, as I just said, picking up more, more lesser known, very, very hidden areas. Sometimes crowdfunding takes place for through charitable trust. You're providing public health avenues to those nobody is asking about. There is a large section of society which is marginalized, large section of society which requires that, and then you could have brought this idea. So average, average answer, fair enough, but not cutting edge. Poverty and malnutrition creates a vicious cycle, adversely affecting human capital formation. A very, very, very pertinent and a very, very managerial approach kind of question. As per the recent Niti Aayog, 25 crore people move poverty, 2013-2022, poverty, no work. I think I like this graphic representation is good enough. Socio-economic steps to break the cycle includes generation of jobs during particularly off-season, social security benefits, education availability, modern pedagogy, PMC, fortified school. Even in this also you could have more, you could have made a sequential chart. First, education must be there. If education is there, along with that, midday meal scheme and food must be there. And then you must be bringing to skill training, and then you must be coming to job. Human capital, and then you should bring here at least in one point the bigger issues. Without without adequate physical infrastructure, there cannot be any human infrastructure. You must have spoken about connectivity, you must have spoken about affordability, you must have spoken about accessibility, affordability, and availability of physical infrastructure can only help if there is no school nearby. If the school is nearby, this is dysfunctional. If funding is also there but the funding is not used, if funding is misused, if funding is also there, no maintenance is there, then what you will do? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is a case in example. Human capital formation happens through cleanliness also. More cleanliness is there, less diseases will be there. Less disease will be there, less disease burden will be there. Less disease burden is there, then you are going to have more money left. So I think we could go for a next smart level. Doctrine of democratic governance makes it necessary that public perception of integrity and commitment of civil servants becomes absolutely positive. Absolutely positive is the keyword over here. And this is an ethics question coming up in paper 2. So the doctrine of democratic, there is nothing called doctrine of democratic governance as such. Uh, Public perception of integrity and commitment of civil servants becomes absolutely positive. Discuss. Definitely, you should bring here very good illustrations. Let's see what you have written. Transparency, truth, fairness, accountability, fulfilling integrity and commitment of civil servants. All the ideas strengthens people trust and credibility of governance, like bureaucracy since governance is a tool. You should have start bringing illustrations from after paragraph 1 at least. How there is hands-on approach by the bureaucrats, whether it is RBI governor, who always tries to bring everything through transparency, meetings, periodic reviews, and so on. Then you should be bringing the role of secretary health coming up in front, taking up the practical examples, helping in clinical trials, or going for district magistrate, or even an Indian police service officer, or going to the below level of a constable. How an inspired constable is going to work more and more when the superintendent of police is more involved. Those kind of two or three examples would have brilliantly helped you to close the answer, because this is an endless answer. You can write as much as you want, there is no end to it. Public perception, you must have brought examples of certain events, whether it is holding of G20 in a transparent way, whether it is a certain kind of operation which India has conducted in bringing stranded people from outside, whether it is the growth of medical tourism in India. Anything you would have taken up which brings people belief that civil servants are actually working on the ground, and that's how perception will be changed. So the question was of perception, integrity. So without illustration, you can't do that. So it is happening. You have written on correct lines, but I'm just trying to give you more structured approach, which is possible. The West is fostering India as an alternative to reduce dependence on China's supply chain as a strategy to counter India's political and economic dominance. Explain the example. This is your area. It is not only the West who is fostering India to diversify supply chain, but equally India too. Very good, as it is in line with the strategic interest reduction, current account deficit to prevent occurrence of supply chain disruption in future critical goods sector, semiconductor chips, renewable energy, solar wafers, and pharma sector. सही बात है. Recently, India and US have agreed on technology sharing in mutual semiconductor chips or joint venture of Tata Micro. बिल्कुल सही बात है. Integrated and critical emerging agreement on defense and AI. Another domain is critical minerals, where India has signed lithium deal with Argentina and Kabil. Also in manufacturing industry, India is emerging as a major supplier of smartphones, leveraging cluster-based development and joint venture with Apple to manufacture all iPhone models in an alternative to China assembly facility. Therefore, such geostrategic moves uh, uh, foster.
A renewed multilateralism.
One should not be writing below the line. So this is a wonderfully done. I think very very beautifully written. Good answer. Critically analyzing India's involving diplomatic, economic, and strategic relations with Central Asian republics, highlighting their increasing significance in regional and global geopolitics. यानी कि डिप्लोमेटिक, इकोनॉमिक, स्ट्रेटेजिक सब सेंट्रल एशियन रिपब्लिक के साथ करना है, और उसके बाद उनका रीजनल और जियो पॉलिटिक्स से भी जुड़ना है. नहीं, ये भी ओपन हैंडेड है, कुछ भी लिख सकते हो आप. सेंट्रल एशिया इज नेक्स्ट हॉटस्पॉट ऑफ ग्रोथ. सही बात है. क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स क्रूशियल एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी. शुरुआत बहुत अच्छी है. चलिए, टेररिज्म, एंटी टेररिज्म भी रोक बोल सकते हो आप, और पूरा मिडिल ईस्ट से यूरोप जाने का रास्ता हमारा वही है. रीजनल सिग्निफिकेंस, एशिया लेड सेंचुरी म्यूचुअल एग्रीमेंट पॉइंट ब्रिक्स एक्सपेंशन, टेररिज्म मेजर. ठीक बात है. पोटेंशियल ट्रेड टैप एशिया, सेंट्रल एशिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशियन. East Asia Summit, India's participation first time in 2022. Geo source of India imports uranium from Kazakhstan. वो बात नहीं, कजाकिस्तान तो वर्ल्ड का लार्जेस्ट सप्लायर है यूरेनियम का. एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी, टापी गैस पाइपलाइन, कतर, स्ट्रेटेजिक कनेक्टिविटी थ्रू आईएमईसी. इट प्रोवाइड्स एन अल्टरनेट टू मल्टी मॉडल ट्रेड रूट एंड यूरोप. तो अच्छा लिखा, बहुत बढ़िया लिखा, लेकिन आप एक सेकंड सोच कर आप ये भी कर सकते थे कि कैसे जो ग्लोबल एग्जाम्पल है, कैसे सेंट्रल एशिया और इंडिया को, अगर इंडिया सेंट्रल एशिया से जुड़ जाता है थोड़ा सा और अच्छे से, तो कैसे इंडिया का एक जो आवाज है, वो इंडिया की आवाज नहीं, वो एशियन कॉन्टिनेंट की आवाज सुनाई देगी. अभी जैसे हम इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट बोलते हैं, फिर एशियन कॉन्टिनेंट हो जाएगा. रशिया और चाइना के साथ साथ इंडिया को भी उतना ही बड़ा देखा जाएगा जितना बड़ा अभी नहीं देखा जाएगा. What are the areas, aims, and objects of recently passed and for the Public Examination Act 2024? Whether University, State Education Board exam 2 are covered under this act? बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. द पब्लिक एक्ट हैज been implemented. Sole objective to ensure fair, transparent, competitive method of conducting result-based exams. Frequent instances of paper leaks, adoption of unfair means appearing. तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी के लिए, विश्वास के लिए, यूथ को मेरिट बेस उसके लिए किया गया है. It hampered the trust and the purpose of conducting, resulting in postponing with building pressure of unemployed youth. It raised question on potential public authority to conduct the exam in a fair manner. सही बात, ठीक लिखा है. प्रिवेंट एंड एलिमिनेट चीटिंग, अकाउंटेबिलिटी एंड डिटरेंस, इंश्योर क्रेडिबिलिटी. ठीक बात है. प्यूरिटी मेजर्स हैं, और 100% कंप्यूटर अडेप्टिव टेस्ट है, सो एज टू बी वल्नरेबिलिटी लीक. इंश्योर लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड. इनिशियल चैलेंजेस विल बी लास्ट माइल रीच इन द रूरल एरियाज. ठीक बात है. टू इंक्रीज अकाउंट स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर. सही बात है, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. सेंटर कोऑर्डिनेटर, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. पब्लिक, यूपीएससी, एसएससी, आरआरबी एक्ट ओनली covers university recruitment exams and admissions along with employment recruitment public sector. यानी कि आप कॉलेज के जो ग्रेजुएट लेवल एग्जाम है उसको कवर नहीं करता है. Success of it will be determined with applicable to state education board exams. Simultaneously, in IT International Informatics Center, inclusion of third-party players will make the process seamless, secure. So I think fair enough, well written. Right to privacy is intrinsic to life and personal liberty and is inherently protected under the Article 21. Explain this with reference to the to discuss the law relating to DNA testing in the of child in the womb to establish it paternity. I think बहुत broad और बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन लिया है. वही बात है कि ये आया था क्योंकि ये डीएनए टेस्टिंग की अगर हम बात करें, द लैंडमार्क के एस पुट्टुस्वामी जजमेंट 2017 की बात की आपने. राइट टू प्राइवेसी, फंडामेंटल बेसिस, डिग्निफाइड ह्यूमन लाइफ, राइट टू अनबोर्न चाइल्ड एंड मदर. ओके, data is the scientific basis to prove an argument and justify, but at the same time there are concerns of data with ethical usage. Similarly case with the DNA testing of establishing paternity of child. DNA testing of child law relate to adhering to the principles of proportionality with urgent need of DNA test versus data security. बहुत अच्छी लाइन लिखी, बहुत अच्छा लैंग्वेज है. Gender neutral protection of rights of mother and their favor. And then the Supreme Court too upheld the constitutional validity of the law to carry out such tests with extreme caution and care and to meet the intended objective. The Indian Evidence Acts allow for DNA tests in certain areas. It is not mandatory. I agree with that. You have written on the correct line. Sensitive personal data of child. And then you are talking about balancing child's right, childhood safety. And after that, we are talking about upholding the fundamental rights, basic human rights. Therefore, effective implementation of DNA testing law, simultaneous implementation of comprehensive law for personal data protection is needed and desirable steps towards inclusive growth, strengthening the family relationships. I think very good flow, and beautifully it is written. What changes the union government recently introduced in the domain of center-state relations? Again, a very broad-ended question. Suggest measures to adopt to build trust between the center and states for strengthening federalism. What changes? So center-state relations, cooperative and competitive federalism. Challenges आपने पहले बताए. तो चेंजेस भी चैलेंजेस चलो आप पहले बता दीजिए. रोल ऑफ गवर्नर, सही बात है. रिव्यू रेवेन्यू शेयरिंग, बिल्कुल अच्छा बोला आपने. प्रेसिडेंट रूल बहुत अच्छा किया. और पॉलिटिसाइजेशन ऑफ एग्जांपल दिल्ली, एलजी ऑफ दिल्ली, दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. आई थिंक करेक्ट. Implementation of GST on July 2017 led to synergy in indirect tax collection. States concerning regarding जो उनका compensation है उसकी बात कर रहे हैं. Compensation अब खत्म होने का टाइम भी आ चुका है. कंपनसेशन के खत्म होने के साथ साथ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन नीति आयोग, रिप्लेसिंग प्लानिंग कमीशन, बहुत अच्छा लिखा. बहुत ही ब्रॉड हेडिंग्स लिए हैं आपने. अचीविंग सैचुरेशन सेंट्रल स्पॉट स्कीम थ्रू सिलेक्शन पॉलिसी बेनिफिशियरीज. उसके बाद फाइनेंस कमीशन एंड डिवीजन एंड डाइवल्यूशन ऑफ फंड्स, रिसेंट 16 फाइनेंस कमीशन टेन्योर 2026 की आपने बात की. फिर उसके बाद आपने बात किया स्ट्रेंथनिंग इंटरस्टेट काउंसिल एड्रेसिंग रीजनल डिस्पैरिटीज. अच्छा लिखा, कोशिश किया आपने लेके आने की, आ भी रहा है. So I think a little bit of more thinking will bring us to, for example, if a state is trying to create certain when center is trying to create certain infrastructure in state, जैसे मान लो कहीं पर ड्रग पार्क की बात हो रही है, कहीं पर बात हो रही है, मेट्रो रेल के करने की बात हो रही है, तो क्या सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट अपोजिशन जो पावर में है स्टेट, क्या वहां पर भी वो फेयर इनफ बिहेवियर कर रहा है? तो ऐसा करके आप एक दो पॉइंट्स और लेके आ सकते हैं. आई थिंक इट्स ऑन ट्रैक. Explain the reasons for the growth of PIL in India. India has, as a result, has the Indian Supreme Court emerged as the world's most powerful judiciary. Okay. PIL क्यों आया? क्या सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट मेजर क्यों हुआ? क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि वो बात ये है कि PIL पे बिलीफ है, वो लास्ट माइल रिजॉर्ट है, वो सबको लगता है इट इज एक्सेसिबल टू अस. जुडिशरी सेक्रोसेंट, इन पब्लिक आइज इट इज हैविंग द मैक्सिमम फेथ. वही इंपॉर्टेंट सबसे पॉइंट आता है. गवर्नमेंट इज द लार्जेस्ट लिटिगेटर, ये बात भी बिल्कुल सही है. माइक्रो मीडिया एंड पब्लिक अवेयरनेस हैव लेड टू इंक्रीज कम्युनिटी पार्टिसिपेशन. जरूरी है वो. सेंटर भी यानी एग्जीक्यूटिव अपना रोल प्ले नहीं करता, फिर PIL आ जाती है या उसकी गलतियों को उठाने के लिए आ जाती है. केस रिलेटेड टू ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशन, एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन, MC मेहता जजमेंट, आर्टिकल 32/2086 एम्पावर SC हाई कोर्ट. ठीक है. गवर्नेंस डिलेज इन एग्जीक्यूशन, ठीक बात बोली आपने. इट इंक्लूड्स अल्कोहल बैन, fulfilling the principle of separation of powers. आप बोल रहे हो green crackers, upholding larger power. But is the rising number of balance handling is one of the strongest judiciary functioning as per the living document. Expansion of expensive justice, desirable, equitable, affordable. आप कहिए इसी विश्वास के कारण ही हमारी लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग भी होती है. इसी विश्वास के कारण ही सुओ मोटो जुडिशरी स्पीकिंग ऑफ सुओ मोटो केसेस फ्रॉम द न्यूज़पेपर अपने आप स्वतः मंगा लेते हैं. So that showcases transparency, that showcases faith, that showcases that citizens के पास न्यूज़पेपर, प्रिंट मीडिया अपने आप में एक मीडियम है. तो आपको थोड़ा सा ब्रॉड और होना है. डिस्कस इंडिया एज ए सेकुलर स्टेट एंड कंपेयर विद द सेकुलर प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ द यूएस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ओन इनहेरेंट यूनिक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स. और हम मतलब हमारे यहाँ बात की जाती है धर्म निरपेक्षता की बात की जाती है, हम धर्म निरपेक्ष हैं. सिंगल secular thread running across delivering welfare. Indian secularism equal closeness with all religions. Religion and state are completely separate. Equidistant है हम, बेसिकली हम कह सकते हैं. इक्विटेबल आपने जैसे कहा. पार्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. थोड़ा सा और क्लैरिटी आएगी लैंग्वेज में. सोशल फेडरेशन, फेडरलिज्म, सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, दस वेलफेयर ड्रिवन. वे ऑफ लिविंग, सोशियो कल्चरल फैब्रिक रनिंग डीपर. सही बात है, सोशल हमारे सोशल वैल्यू से जुड़ा हुआ है. यूएस मॉडल ऑफ सेक्युलरिज्म ऑन द एंड सिंबॉलिक ऑफ द वेस्टर्न मॉडल विच इज डिसएसोसिएटेड विद पॉलिटिकल फ्रेमवर्क एंड वर्क इन सीलोज. हमारा सीलोज में काम नहीं करता, दस इट इज लीनियर. देयरफॉर द नेचर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी एंड एग्जिस्टेंशियल रियलिटी इज बीइंग डिफरेंट इन इंडिया. ठीक बात है, पॉइंट अच्छा है आपका, ये चलेगा. Citizen Charter had been landmark initiative in ensuring citizen-centric administration, but it is yet to reach its full potential. सही बात है. Identify the factors in including the realization of its promise and suggest measures to overcome them. सारी बात पूछ ली, आपने बताया क्या है. Features and provisions to ensure good governance of public authorities, maximizing social welfare with common set of points as mentioned in Citizen Charter. Basically, Citizen Charter यानी नागरिक जो संहिता है वो नागरिक को बनने के अधिकार और उसको कर्तव्य बात की बात करती है. सोर्स ऑफ गाइडिंग लाइट, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. एम्प्लॉयज इंस्टीट्यूशन. पब्लिक सर्विस की बात हो जाती है. पब्लिक सर्विस का नेचर बहुत स्ट्रीमलाइन हो जाता है. नेचर ऑफ सर्विस डिलीवरी इज मिनिमम पॉसिबल टाइम. सही बात है, वो टाइम है, मिनिमम रिसोर्सेज है, क्लैरिटी है, जो आपने लिखा भी है. आप एग्जांपल देते, चाहे वो बैंकिंग अम्बिट्समैन है, चाहे फिर वो उसके बाद एजुकेशन सर्विसेज हैं, चाहे फिर उसके बाद वो पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग्स हैं, चाहे फिर उसके बाद वो IRDAI है, चाहे उसके बाद वो स्टॉक एक्सचेंज है. सबको करना पड़ेगा ये. नॉन ऑब्लिगेटरी, इट इज एट टू नॉन ऑब्लिगेटरी नेचर ऑफ कंप्लायंस. नहीं, नॉन ऑब्लिगेशन हैं, ऐसा नहीं है, ऑब्लिगेशन बिल्कुल है. आप सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि लोगों के पास अवेयरनेस नहीं. लोग मानते नहीं है कि ऐसा होगा भी. लोग सोचते हैं चलता है एटीट्यूड वाली बात है. मोर अवेयरनेस, मोर मोर बिहेवियरल लिटरेसी इज रिक्वायर्ड. लैंग्वेज बैरियर नहीं, हाँ ठीक है, मोर लैंग्वेज बैरियर आप बोलिए और वर्नाकुलर में होना चाहिए. इट इज एन इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ ट्रेनिंग बट नॉट एवरीडे लाइफ. ये आपको लाना चाहिए था. पर अच्छे पॉइंट्स हैं, सिंसियर नोट पे पॉइंट्स हैं, दे विल बी गिविंग यू स्कोर. चलिए आगे. इंस्टॉलिंग रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस, ठीक बात है. एक पॉइंट को बार बार नहीं करना है, वहीं पे उसको स्मार्टली खत्म करना है. सिटीजन एनजीओ वेबसाइट पोर्टल पार्ट ऑफ ट्रेनिंग. वर्ल्ड क्लास जो लेवल्स हैं वो लेके आइए. जो हमारे मेरिट्स हैं, जो हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, जो हमारे सरकार जो बोलता है उसके हिसाब से उसको पूरा वो कीजिए. डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का रूल लेके आइए. इन a crucial domain like public healthcare system, the Indian state should play a vital role in to contain adverse impact of marketization of system. Oh my God, what a beautiful question. Suggest some measures through which the state can enhance the reach of public healthcare at the grassroots level. One, I think, wonderful question. Both areas it is being asking. Marketization कैसे कम करना है, बाजारीकरण कम कैसे होगा, और लास्ट माइल तक कैसे पहुंचोगे. ऑब्जेक्टिव, डिलीवर अफोर्डेबल क्वालिटी हेल्थ केयर. वो हमारा डीपीएसपी का पार्ट आपको लिखना चाहिए था. डीपीएसपी की बात है, सरकार के नीति निर्देशित तत्व हैं, वो सरकार बनी इसलिए है. बट ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ रेगुलेटरी ओवरसाइट एंड द लार्ज साइज ऑफ इंडिया, गिवन द डाइवर्सिटी, हेल्थ केयर स्टिल ए चैलेंज. लैक नहीं है रेगुलेटरी ओवरसाइट का, रेगुलेटरी ओवरसाइट की इनेबिलिटी है, वो इतना कर नहीं पाती है. लैक तो मतलब बिल्कुल ही नहीं है, आपने कह दिया, है ही नहीं. आप कहना चाहते हो ड्रग भी है, फार्मास्यूटिकल भी है, और हमारे यहाँ हेल्थ केयर का पूरा सिस्टम है. जेनरिक मेडिसिन तो बाहर तक जा रही हैं. ब्लैक मार्केटिंग प्रैक्टिसेस सेलिंग वन ऑफ द मेन चैलेंजेस एड्रेस. तो आप बोलिए क्वालिटी ड्रग्स, क्वालिटी स्पूरियस अडल्ट्रेटेड जो है वो रुकना चाहिए. उसको रोकने के लिए जो इलिसिट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं वो कम होनी चाहिए, वो बंद होनी चाहिए. इट ट्रांसलेट इनटू हायर आउट ऑफ पॉकेट. वो तो बात बिल्कुल सही है, पहले वाला यही होना चाहिए कि भाई दवाइयाँ क्वालिटी की हो और हर जगह हो, हम उसको प्रायोरिटी दें. मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट की कौन बात कर रहा है हेल्थ में आपका जीडीपी बढ़ाएंगे, कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा. बात यहाँ कर रहे हैं कि भाई उसने अपमान कर दिया और उसने ये कर दिया. तो आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पेपर है, वो चीजें लेके आनी है. डिले सर्जरी, स्विच पुअर पीपल, मेजर्स टू इंक्रीज रीच एट ग्रासरूट लेवल, रोबस्ट लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लाइक पंचायत म्युनिसिपैलिटीज. ठीक बात है, पीएम जन आरोग्य योजना. आप बताइए, ऐप ऐप है लोगों के हाथ में भाई. कंप्लेन देंगे, कंप्लेन को सॉल्व कीजिए ऑन द स्पॉट. एक्सकलेट करने का पूरा मैकेनिज्म बताइए. रेगुलर रिक्रूटमेंट, सोशल सिक्योरिटी बेनिफिट्स. ठीक बात है. डिजिटाइजेशन ऑफ सर्विसेज, इंक्रीज ट्रांसपेरेंसी, पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप. आई थिंक 70%, 75% it is on track. E-governance not just about routine application of digital tech service, but it is much about multifarious interactions for ensuring transparency. It is in context evaluate the role of interactive service model of e-governance. ये आपको नहीं भी पता तो आप लिख सकते हो. Most transparent way, strengthening minimum governance, मैक्सिमम गवर्नमेंट, आप बहुत अच्छा, आप पहले ही लेके आए, बहुत बढ़िया लिखा आपने बायलेटरली। आपने बहुत अच्छा डायग्राम भी बनाया। रूटीन एप्लीकेशन, पंचायत पंचिंग, अटेंडेंस ट्रैकिंग, जीपीएस, यहाँ आपका दिमाग बहुत फास्ट चल रहा है। ई गवर्नेंस बाय गवर्नमेंट, हाउ रिवर्स आल्सो होल्ड ट्रू, ब्रिंग्स अबाउट इंटरैक्टिव सर्विस, सिटीजन फीडबैक, ग्रीवेंस रिड्रेसल, एआई चैटबॉट्स, कर्मयोगी, वो सब भी लेके आ जाना चाहिए था आपको। जीएम पोर्टल, ई मार्केट एक्सेस, ठीक है। डीबीटी, जैम ट्रिनिटी, इफेक्टिव मोबिलाइजेशन, रिसोर्सेज बिल्डिंग, डोर स्टेप। उसके बाद वोटर आईडी, राशन कार्ड, हाउएवर फुल पोटेंशियल, ओपन सोर्स remains to be leveraged. I think on track, wonderfully written. Terrorism has become a significant threat to the global peace and security. Evaluate the effectiveness of UNSC counterterrorism committee and associated associated bodies in addressing mitigating this threat at international level. So development of modern technology, availability, advanced supply, modern tactics, terrorism, आपको यूएन का लेके आएंगे इसके अंदर। लीवरेज नेशनल वर्ड्स, ठीक है। अर्बन टेरिटरी डायग्राम का कोशिश कीजिए बीच में बने, थोड़ा बढ़िया से बने। क्रिप्टो करेंसी रेगुलेशन, इंटरकॉनेस्टिक बेसाइल, टू दिस अफेक्ट यूएसएससी काउंटर टेररिज्म कमिटी नीड्स एन ओवरऑल, यूएनएससी वाला, उसका आप नंबर भी लेके आइए। डेफिनेशन ऑफ टेररिज्म, साइबर वॉरफेयर, अर्बन टेररिज्म, इंटीग्रेटेड वर्किंग, एफएटीएफ, आरएटीएस, आई थिंक वंडरफुली, कोऑपरेशन गवर्नमेंट वोलेटाइल रीजन्स। उसके बाद आपने solution oriented approach, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, region oriented, I think wonderfully done. I think good approach as far as answer is concerned. Geopolitical and geostrategic, Maldives for India, focus on global trade and energy flows, further discuss how this relationship affects India's maritime security and stability amongst international competition. तो मालदीव्स आपने बता दिया, अटॉल है, साउथ ऑफ श्रीलंका, बहुत अच्छा बताया शुरू में, बना बता दिया तो बना दिया, बना दिया तो बता दिया, दोनों को सेम चीज नहीं करनी है। जियोपॉलिटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस लाइज विद द, अब आपको बनाना ही था तो नीचे दिखाते इंडियन ओशन, इधर दिखाती कुछ, तब जाके नंबर तो, या ट्रेड रूट, ऐसे ट्रेड रूट बना देते एक लाइन खींच के। प्रो इंडिया पॉलिटिक्स एज इंडियंस, उसके बाद चलिए नीचे चलिए, डेवलपमेंट लाइक प्रोजेक्ट, चलो चलो, माला ग्रेट माले कनेक्टिविटी प्रोजेक्ट, स्केल हो गया आपने, अदर का इंडिया हो गया, मालदीव हो गया, ब्लू कनेक्टिविटी हो गया, रिसेंट मोइजू हो गया। उसके बाद आपने बताया बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव बताया, इंडिया अपोजिस बीआरआई। तो सिर्फ इंडिया, चाइना और मालदीव नहीं, आपको यहाँ पे टर्की भी लेके आना चाहिए, आपको यहाँ पे बाकी इस्लामिक कंट्री जैसे इंडोनेशिया है, बाकियों की भी एक थोड़ी चर्चा करनी चाहिए। मालदीव कहीं पर भी घूमने की कोशिश करता है, यूएस और यूके भी चाहते हैं उसको इन्फ्लुएंस करना, ऐसा नहीं है। बाकी तो आई थिंक वंडरफुली रिटन, सी बेल्ट मेटलिक मॉड्यूल्स है। उसके बाद जो है आपने सारा का सारा बहुत अच्छे अप्रोच से, डेमोक्रेटिक रूल्स बेस्ड अप्रोच, मेंटेन स्टेबिलिटी, यू हैव डन इट। वी कैन मूव फर्दर प्लीज। ओके, गिव मी अ फीडबैक प्लीज।
So I have to think more in the direction of the illustrations and the examples. और थोड़ा पॉलिटी के हिसाब से with more articles and connecting it with that idea, वो थोड़ा lacking, initial answers में वो ज्यादा gap था।
ओके, नो वरीज, इट विल बी हैपनिंग सून। एनीथिंग एल्स यू वांट टू से?
No sir।
I think wonderful efforts, and it's a model where everybody can work. Please revisit it. Please revisit it. Give time to understand what we are speaking, what we have written. When you give millions of hours, then suddenly overnight we become successful. That is how things happens. And with the same approach, we are going to work in this direction. Wishing you all the best. Thank you very much.